Hi and welcome to my FMP final presentation. Um, so my initial idea was to do a documentary on the history of animation, how it changed, how it's continuing to change, and how it will change. It was going to be split up into three sections. So one interviewing the fans of animation of all different ages, all different genders. Um, So, like somebody in their 20s and somebody younger than their 20s and someone maybe in their 60s. I just wanted to get like an idea of what was popular back in the day. Um, and like with people younger than me and people older than me, I just want to get an idea of what each decade considered as their most iconic cartoon. And then the next bit, I was gonna interview professionals and also visit a studio and observe the work that goes on to make an animation in a day. And then finally, I wanted to meet young people in their 20s or younger who are possibly studying animation. And then they'll show me some of the work they've done, and just like I want to get an insight of how animation will look and how animation will be like in the next 30 to 40 years, for example. Um, so the schedule, as you could see, I haven't really used it properly, so in that sense, it was not successful. Um, as you can see, I have not filled out everything, and I should have had like a week where I'm just focusing, a week or two, just focusing on the filming, the editing, or just on the paperwork, which I have not done. If I had, then I would have been able to organize my time better and focus on what I want to film. Like the stuff that I didn't get to film, I would have probably got to film them more. To film them, uh, if I had just used the schedule, basically. Um, if I go back to the pitch, the thing that has changed most, um, I didn't get to interview people just starting out in the industry in their 20s. Other so which I'm really upset about because I think that would have been interesting for my target audience. Because I didn't have time. I went to a studio, but I didn't get to do the tour, which I'm also really upset about. And then the fans of animation, I wanted to get 5 people of all different ages, and then two of them out of I ended up interviewing 3 of them, and 2 of them were around late teens, early 20s. Um, and I wanted one section only to be uh, for the 20-year-olds, for that age group. And that was the upcoming animators. Um, the next thing is my age group for a long time was 30 to 20-year-olds. And then I got to thinking if I was to make a real documentary, I should probably expand my demographic and my psychographic, which I later did to 40 to 60-year-olds, like recently, like maybe in the last 2 months. Um, and I did this because maybe they're concerned with what their kids are watching and who they idolize, as well as they are like the people behind our favorite cartoons. So as you can see, Simpsons, Family Guy, South Park. Yeah, and I just wanted to explore like how animation has changed. And as you can see here in this picture, you've got the Disney classics on that side, then you got the adult cartoons on that side, then you got a bit of anime. And then my reflective journal, I got a referral mainly because of my reflective journal, because I didn't reflect on my strengths and weaknesses on a daily basis, and that's how a lot of stuff went wrong. Um, it helped in knowing, like, in analyzing myself when I did use it, and So if I didn't use the schedule, then in a way the reflective journal could be my schedule instead. Um, so my script, I didn't really do a script, like an actual script, to be honest, because I was struggling, especially in the narrating part. However, I did write down some questions that I would like to ask the industry people. So I think it was here. So I did how long it takes to create an animation on average, some of the questions I've written, and then what would you say is the most fun aspect and why, and what sort of animation would you say is most challenging in terms of genre, so CGI, stop motion, anime. And then here I've got interview for fans, and also my friend, she offered me an idea, which I think is quite good, to maybe put my own thoughts, but I wasn't sure where to put it in the actual FMP, where like my personal thoughts on animation would go. I've also done a voiceover, which is somewhere here. This is the voiceover I did. Hello and welcome to the History of Animation, where I'll guide you through the evolution of animation, how and when it began, as well as what changes it went through, and how it's developed so far. Animation dates back to more than hundreds of years ago. However, animation as we know it started in the 1920s with the Walt Disney classic Mickey Mouse, which is loved by young and old to this day. Mickey Mouse was one of the first cartoons to use sound, with its first episode featuring a 100-piece orchestra. In the 1930s and 40s, the theme of animals continued, with beloved children's classics such as Tom and Jerry and Looney Tunes. However, cartoons during that time gradually got more violent. Picture and sound quality in cartoons improved a great deal during that period, especially with the use of color coming in. By the 60s, cartoons shifted their focus from animals to people, and in particular, families, such as the Flintstones, which in later years inspired a lot of similar shows on that topic. In the 80s and 90s, we saw a rise in more adult themed cartoons, such as The Simpsons, Family Guy, and South Park. The last one, especially being a cartoon that often pushes the envelope and quite often is the center of controversy. By the end of the 90s, traditional animation was slowly being replaced with the use of CGI instead, computer generated animation, which started to make its mark in the industry. So yeah, that was my script, sort of. It was okay, but it could have been better, especially the voiceover part. I think the questions are well done and like well thought out. So I think it could have been better, and I could have practiced it more because a lot of time you hear me pausing, um, on the voiceover. So I think, and a lot of the stuff I said in the voiceover has been mentioned before. So I think that could have been better. So I had a lot of problems, starting with when I went to the BBC. So I did interview some people. I found out the camera was not working. Which, so yeah, I found out that this wasn't working. So I had to use my phone instead, which obviously gave it shaky quality. So it was this one, I think. I'll show you this one. It's better. Hi, what age did you get into animation?
Um, about I'd say 19, 20 when I first started college.
Mhm. And which cartoon made you get into animation as a career rather than as a hobby?
Cartoons. I'd say anime in general.
Mhm.
I love anime. I was always interested
Yeah.
in that culture, in that way of animation, and the difference between each anime. Like you can tell it's made by a different company from the way it was made, put together. Different companies make prefer different genres. I love that contrast. I love how the whole culture works.
What do you think about more adult themed cartoons such as South Park and Family Guy?
I completely approve of it. We definitely need satire.
Yeah.
And yeah, I don't know what to say about that. I really like it. Cartoon is not for kids.
Yeah.
Not only for kids.
Yeah.
But yeah.
So you can tell like that I've shot it with my phone because the vertical is not very good quality. Um, However, I managed to fix that by adding this cool VHS effect, which like looks really good. Um, and also, yeah, it looks very good and looks very professional, and it just fits in with the theme that I'm doing. Um, and really, I was just experimenting on Final Cut to just get rid of that vertical view with my phone and get rid of the shakiness, and it turned out really good. So if you could just see it here. I'll show you where it. Yeah, as you can see, it's got this cool 90s VHS effect. And yeah, the other problem, so I managed to fix that in post production. The other thing that I overcame, I'll show you in my reflective journal. I have a picture of it somewhere. So basically, yeah, so this woman, I haven't shot her well, as you can see. Not enough headroom. She's shot at like a weird angle, and like the lighting's okay. It could be better, but then you can see the tripod sticking out, which ruins the shot. And so I got her to come in again, and like as you can see, with the help of my teachers, I got the lighting right. I did some manual focus, and then I did the rule of third, which makes it look way more professional than how I did it before. And then I've added just some lightings and some transitions um, on the actual clip. And yeah, the biggest problem I had was on one of my clips, the sound wasn't coming through, and I found that about that like very last minute, like when I started to edit the clips. Um, and so like there wasn't time to get him to come again, this person, and so I used my friend from class, and I got my teacher to help me with where is she? She is um
My favourite episode would be from Tom and Jerry, episode 106, called Timid Tabby.
Favourite episode? I think it would have to be the scene from Pinocchio where cartoon. When I was a little girl, there was a cartoon show called Shazam.
Bart from The Simpsons.
So as you can see, yeah, the sound's coming through, and I got help because I didn't understand why that happened. So I got help from my teacher who said I should have tested the audio first and like just done like the manual setup, and it should have been working. And he did that with me, and That's why there's audio. Now, so my planning and production wasn't very good, to be honest. I had a lot of, like, the first two actresses you saw are from Mandy, and a lot of the actors I used are also from Mandy. And I didn't really have a budget, but obviously I had to pay for their travel and expenses, which would, depending on where they lived, that could cost me up to £20. So yeah, and I wasn't very organized, as I showed you my schedule before. I I should have used that as time managing to help me with my time managing, because my time managing is quite bad usually. Yeah. And then I fell a little bit on my production paperwork, mainly the reflective journal, and that's why I got a referral on it. So I think I would say the conclusion is it was successful and not successful at the same time. So if I go back on my website, I'm really proud of that editing. This is like the most creative I've been with my editing, and my editing has always been stronger than my filming. So as you can see, I just like played around with the fonts, the effects, and the transitions. And then I did this like film strip thing, which looked really cool, and I did it throughout the whole thing. As you can see, I've sped up some shots and then slowed them down, and then zoomed in on some shots. And really, I was just experimenting on Final Cut, as I've said before. So yeah, I think my editing is quite good. However, for some reason, the transitions stopped working. Like, so I had this film strip look throughout the thing, and then around the 8th minute, this stops coming in, the transitions, which kind of ruins it. So there wasn't anything I could do about that. So my research report, where's my research report? My research report. Okay, so I looked at, this is obviously at the beginning. My friends gave me some suggestions and some strengths in my idea, so that helped my target audience. I had a focus group with my friend Zal, and he said it's a very good idea, but maybe like to focus on one aspect of animation. Then I had some questionnaires for my target audience, to find out like how exactly I should market my product, if this was a real documentary, and who exactly would be interested in my product. So I asked them, are you a mainstreamer, a reformer, a succeeder, or explorer? Then, as I said, I looked at templates of documentary scripts and like what other people are doing, to get an idea how a documentary script should look like. And then we had this website called Google Trends, where we would see our topic, what would when it's most popular, and where it's most popular. So I've done cartoon here, and as you could see, if we look on the graph, it's most popular around September, October time. This is because their new season start then. but also because Simpsons, they have a Halloween episode since 91 every year since 91, which has been very successful. And they change the music usually and the font to give it like a horror style. If I show you, so Treehouse of Horror. For example, they usually have a different opening. So as you can see, I've tried to sort of replicate the Pixar and Disney font style, and also a bit of the Simpsons here. You can see that. So I think it was successful and it wasn't successful, in conclusion. So it was successful because of the editing and like how the final product looks overall, and it wasn't successful because there's a lot of stuff that I didn't get to film. And on my Wix site, you can find this video in the FMP section, along with my rough edit of my FMP and my final version of my FMP. Thank you for watching.